And I'm still doing a few things, but at least we'll be on. There we go. What's up, everybody? Give us like 30 seconds. I'm loading up one thing on my computer here, having a good time.
Hey, do I have any echo? Do I need to get headphones on?
Very fine.
I don't think so.
Okay, good. I hate headphones, so I can pass on them, I will.
Dude, I already disappointed our first comment. Sorry, Greg.
We know you have the Sir Purr costume in your closet.
I think I have a Gorilla Dotson in my closet, to be honest. Not sure. I think that's the one. And then I think I got a dodgeball underdog costume that I actually wore on stream once.
If you put that T-shirt over the gorilla costume, is that close enough? I mean, Craig, I don't know if you're still out there. Like
it's. I mean, maybe for Robbie Anderson, he might think I'm a grizzly bear or something. Black bear.
Yo, shout out to everyone at Reddit for joining. Now, here's the thing with there's Craig. I love it. It's ridiculous. So for all the people from Reddit, we are doing the Aaron Donald giveaway. All you got to do is comment on that Reddit thread. It's linked in the YouTube video if you're joining here from Twitter, and then also just shoot us a question or something on this YouTube live stream, and then we'll do this again tomorrow and on Sunday, and at the end of the weekend we will go in on Monday, so I guess after the weekend, but we'll go in and randomize and give somebody a winner, and you'll get one of the goats autographed up on your wall, or you can wear it if you're crazy.
And we will be DMing you to get your shipping address, so definitely be on the lookout for a DM from us, to see if you won.
Indeed. All right, guys, you want to kick this off in like 45 seconds here?
Sure. Yeah. Did you say indeed? I thought we were doing it on Reddit.
Say what?
Sorry. Dad jokes abound.
Indeed. Listen, I don't have time for that.
Oh, God.
Are we talking about O-line?
Stream real quick.
Am I in the wrong stream? What happened here? Shit, I'm in the wrong room.
All right. I think we should be good to go here. Why don't we go ahead and kick this off? So this is technically the Fantasy Chop Shop. Usually Jeff and I will do this with JJ Winter like on the weekends once a week, but JJ is a teacher. He's at school right now teaching kids. And so we're hopping in to get this done before the next round of the NFL draft. We're going to go through and cover all of the rookies yesterday that were selected. We've got some trades and stuff that happened too. There's some other crazy fantasy things that happened implication-wise with AJ Brown and Marquise Brown and all this and that. I think for this show, guys, why don't we just keep our focus as best we can on the picks at hand. And before we go in and do that, let me pull up one thing on my computer. And while I'm doing that, why don't y'all go ahead and introduce yourselves?
You want me to go first? Is that what the point was? Okay.
Yeah, it's on you.
So I am Jeff DiMatteo, founder of Gridiron Ratings. You'll find me on Twitter at NFL_DiMatteo. You'll find me on Reddit. Gridiron Ratings is the handle there. I am a certified draftnik.
He's also a certified 49ers fan. He won't trade Deebo Samuel and just get on with it, just get it over with.
Hey, I would have moved him for the Tyreek Hill package and done. Okay. It's not my fault we're still sitting on this guy.
That's fair. But anyways, I'm Jordan Vanek. I work for 4for4 and Awesemo.com. I do GPP article for 4for4 and then Awesemo. I do college football prize pick show and then do their first look show. See what happens this year where I'll be heading in that direction. But you can find me on Twitter, Jordan Vanek DFS. I basically post a ton of spreadsheets. If you're into those types of things, you'll see a lot of that. I actually got a spreadsheet up because I want to go over some like Drake London stuff with route concepts that Arthur Smith ran last year and how that I think he actually bodes well for what they're trying to do.
I like Drake London. I'll let you guys dive more into that stuff, but I'm Ronnie Evans. It's on Twitter at Ronnie A. Evans. I'm also on Reddit at Mr_football. It's an audacious name. I did not play professional football, but I like to pretend I did. And on the Dynasty sub right now, there's a post up there that was by me, kind of letting everyone know about this. You can see the circles under my eye. I was up early this morning trying to get all these graphics taken care of. It's going to be a good show, though. I'm really
A
excited.
little bit of man makeup. A little man makeup. To take care of
I
that.
know. I look like I got a little blush around my eyes right now. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I mean,
Everyone knows it.
I get on video and a little bit of man makeup keeps the light from, makes me, keeps from glistening off my face.
It's moving on. All right. I'm going to share my screen real quick and then we're going to dive into this. But first, I want to give everyone just a quick run through on the upcoming draft board that Gridiron Ratings put together. We're going to be pulling a lot of information from that. And let's just see if we can pull this thing off real quick. And y'all see the draft board on there?
I see
a
black
video.
Some oh, there we go. We have a little video, a little hype video.
Yeah. So this is just a quick overview of the first few pages of this thing. Jeff is the mastermind behind this entire project. He spent 3 to 6 hours looking through a bazillion different prospects. The whole team over at Gridiron Ratings put all their work in and did all these breakdowns. But basically, this is just a very clean, well put together, fully detailed look on all of the rookies, offensive and IDP. So there's a little shot of Malik Willis. More importantly, here's Kenny Pickett here. And you got, similar player comps, how to deploy him on your team and your dynasty squad, his value as like a rookie pick and how you should look at him for his team, some statistical breakdowns, notes, the whole 9 yards. And this is available for 140 players, something like that, 140 pages of rookies.
So it's 145 pages. I don't even know the actual player count, but we have a bunch of players in their offense and defense. I want to say we're around 80 something players. It's we watched 3 games minimum on every player. So there was a lot of scouting and a lot of analysis went into every player.
Yep. It's incredible. Yeah. I think it's the best thing that I've ever seen Jeff put together. I absolutely love it. And, y'all should all get it there. If you go on Gridiron Ratings or click the link on the YouTube video, there's a link to go check it out. Subscribe if you want to. It's the best $15 you'll spend this draft season, and it'll support us too. Make us go be big happy times. You know what I mean? All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this. We are going to skip over offensive line and cornerbacks, but just to make sure that we've got a little notes on those guys. Here is a breakdown of the offensive linemen picked, and you can see I had to throw Tyler Linderbaum in there because I forgot about Sinners. There were 9 taken in the first round. There's a lot of offensive line talent taken. Do you guys have any comments on these guys before we move on to the cornerbacks?
I mean, for me as a Carolina Panthers fan, I'm happy we went tackle at 6, and Matt Rule and company have talked about being maulers, and Icky is the best one of a bunch from mauler perspective, run blocking and just getting aggressive in that regard. And we did with Bozeman and Colbert and free agency as well. So excited to see what the Panthers do in the running game. I don't have a day 2 pick, so this day is going to be real simple for me.
Yeah.
I love the Ravens taking Linderbaum. I mean, this guy went 25th. I've got him as one of the top 10 players, period. Position agnostic in this draft. They're going to plug him in just like Marshall Yanda was plugged in for, 12, 14 years, whatever that was for Baltimore. You can just set it, forget it. And he's going to be an all-pro for a lot of years. So I think that's a hell of a pick there.
Fantastic. All right, let's move on to the cornerbacks. There was 4 in the first round, 2 in the top 4. This is relevant to IDP, but I don't play cornerbacks in my IDP leagues as often as I can because in the end, as we all know, you get rewarded for terrible play on the field. That's how cornerback scoring works. And until somebody puts in passer rating against as a stat that tracks on fantasy sites, I don't want anything to do with cornerbacks. But anyway, guys, any thoughts on these guys?
No, I mean, I love what Houston and the Jets did. Like, Sauce is going to be able to give them some things to do, and what the Jets did throughout the whole draft is something I'm sure we'll get to, and it's pretty freaking exciting. And Stingley is so much upside, and Houston's at a situation where that's what they need. Like, they need a guy that can go out and play multiple coverages. Not too certain how I feel about what Kansas City did. For Buffalo, I like Elam as the second corner to Trey White, who's just continuously been hurt, which has been killing them come playoff time.
Yeah, it looks like we might have lost Ronnie, so we'll kind of pick this thing up here. So, I love Stingley. I think he's the best talent here. I love that Ahmad Gardner's already talking junk about Steph Diggs. He says he thinks he can go ahead and just lock down Steph Diggs on day 1. And I think that's junk. I can't wait for that matchup now. I look at a couple of these other guys. Trent McDuffie, perfect landing spot in Kansas City. He's got a skill set where he just reminds me a lot of the way like Tyrann Mathieu kind of plays, very instinctual, very heady player. And, he can tackle, he can cover, he can do a little bit of everything. I think he might be better suited to the safety position at the next level. But, he's going to get a shot at corner, see what they can do with him, because it's not that he can't cover. I just think he might be better at safety. And the same might be said for, Kaiir Elam. I liked Elam a lot, but this is another guy where I'm like, is he going to be a man press guy at the next level? Is he going to be able to lock down NFL receivers? And if he's playing in Buffalo, we'll see how he mans up against Miami. And now the Jets have some guys that can play a little bit. It'll be really interesting to see how he comes along. Hey, there he is. We got Ronnie back.
No, you did not lose me. I just took my video off to let you guys be the focus there for a second. And I was laughing too because Craig's over here talking smack. And I'm not the guy that was drafted by the Oilers. I know I've got a receding hairline, but I'm not that old. And I bet Justin Herbert does like Zion, Chris. I agree. I think that's good for him. He's probably very, very happy about that, especially with the monster that the AFC West defensive gauntlet has become.
Yeah, that was a fantastic pick by them, especially to just put next to Slater if they want. Like, there's your young side. That side, there's nothing coming, Herbert. There's going to be just your other side because they don't have the log anymore, so they need to replace that.
Well, let's do real quick a little thank you to the Dynasty FF subreddit. It's a shout out. Thank you guys so much for cross promoting this. I hope that this is really informative and helpful to all the people there. It's my favorite subreddit on Reddit. I'm on Reddit all the time. Again, I'm Mr. Football over there. If you ever have any questions, shoot me a DM. But thanks again to all the mods over there. They're super nice, and it's a new mod team as of the last couple of years, and they've done a great job. Let's go ahead and dive into the actual pick by pick run through. All right.
Here we go.
So, first pick was Trayvon Walker. Defensive end out of Georgia, went to the Jaguars. I'm not going to say anything else. I'll let you guys take it away here and talk a little bit about, what you think this means for IDP and for the Jags in general.
How do you pass on Aiden Hutchinson? Like, I get the measurables. I get all that stuff, but I couldn't make his measurables jive with what was on film consistently enough to feel comfortable with this pick. I look at Jacksonville and I'm just like, bulky's going to bulky. And that's kind of what happened here. It's not that the kid can't play. I just think he's more of a project than you needed at number one when you could have taken Aiden Hutchinson, who's going to step onto the field and be effectively Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, like, again, Trayvon Walker has the elite athleticism. If you unlock that and you get that going to being a good football player in terms of, technique and certain things, then he could easily be the best edge in this class. But what Hutchinson and even like Thibodeau showed on film from like Hutchinson with his instincts, Thibodeau was the first step. Like, there's so much more to like with those two right now that I worry about Trayvon Walker starting slow or not getting the proper coaching, because this is pure we're drafting for ceiling. Like, that's what it is.
Hell, I like Jermaine Johnson more too.
Yeah.
Well, so if we look at Trayvon, this is a little bit what we put into the draft guide, just a sneak peek from that. You guys had a similar comp to him for Rashawn Gary. Gary's been great, but he hasn't really been an absolute masterpiece for IDP yet. He's got the potential still, though, and he was great last year. He started to pop a little bit. I like Trayvon. I just think I agree. He's raw. He's probably going to take a couple years to really like pop in the NFL, in my opinion. And I think that the next guy here, Aiden Hutchinson, is probably the best bet for immediate impact in IDP. Y'all agree?
Oh, yeah. Without question. This is the best IDP asset on the board. And he's, depending on how your scoring goes, how balanced it is, he could be worth a first-round pick in a rookie draft.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like Aiden Hutchinson, me and Jeff have talked about it extensively. Like, he's like the Bosa brothers. Like, they have so like there's a play that he had against Georgia where he lined up, had his hand in the dirt. They motioned some people to the left side of the field, short side of the field. He stood up and was like, all right, this is a screen to the right. Ball snapped. He take one step forward, turns to the left, goes, takes the receiver, throws him 2 yards back. Like, those types of plays from a defensive end, you just don't really see from in college.
Absolutely. He's got unmatched tenacity. He's got exceptionally active hands, Great bull rush. He can go ahead and stack moves. I really love what he can do. He can hit you with a jab step and then spin inside. He can go ahead and do the rip and, spin if he wants to go that route. He can swim you. This guy can hit you with a whole variety of moves, and he's explosive enough to beat you with speed. You don't get that guy very often. And the fact that he slipped to 2, Dan Campbell had to be cracking open beers immediately after the first pick went in.
I believe that Dan is having a party 24/7. And I'm sure he was after this pick and seeing Trayvon go right before. Let's jump into the next guy, though. Skipping a few picks ahead in the draft here, skipping over those cornerbacks and going to Kayvon Thibodeau. We had a lot of line talent taken in the first round here, and Kayvon's another one. I think that if you look at the Jets taking that cornerback, I was shocked. I know that Amon Gardner is like – a lot of people love Sauce. A lot of people had him as a top 5 prospect. I don't disagree with him going this high, but I thought that they were going to go take whatever cornerback was available with their next pick and grab a guy like Thibodeau here. But, they got him on. And I don't hate it with the way their first round played out. It was monstrous.
Yeah, so for me with the Thibodeau pick with the Giants, the Giants did perfect. They went, they knew they got Thibodeau with all 3 tackles on the board, and they were probably comfortable with all 3 of them. They're like, all right, let Carolina decide who our next pick's going to be. And specifically to him, he's an immediate impact. I feel like New York, and also being a little bit disrespected, being the defensive end 3 was big for him, because a lot of people question his ability to how much he cares about football, how much he likes football in terms of just, not for the money and stuff like that. So going as the 3rd edge taken at the 5th pick, I think he can have that as an extra motivation. And with the Giants and Martindale, they're going to put him in situations where he gets some one-on-one, especially with Dexter Lawrence in the middle.
Thinks a tuna melt is a hot dog.
I don't even know what that means.
These third graphics on each player are from the NFL subreddit. So shout out to those guys for putting these together. They're pretty funny.
That is funny. So here's the thing. It's hard not to love the guy's talent. He put some really interesting stuff on film. Explosive first step. He does a great job using the long arm to get that inside arm into the chest of the lineman and keep his outside arm upfield. He's hard to get around in that regard. But he did take some plays off. If you start to break him down, you start to watch him enough, it seemed like if he didn't get into a rhythm early and he wasn't making an impact early, he seemed to just kind of fade away into the background. We can't have that at the NFL level. What I'm hoping for is that this guy is going to have that chip on his shoulder, and he's going to see being, the 3rd edge taken, and that's going to become fuel for him, because he is as close to a boom or bust player as there is in this draft. He can be the best player in the draft completely based on talent, or he can be out of the league in 3 years. The desire is a major question mark, and it's come up too many times for it to be BS.
So where do you have him with him going here to the Giants? They needed that D-line help for sure. Does this move his stock at all for you in terms of dynasty drafts?
Oh, heck yeah. I love him in Wink Martindale's system. I mean, when you think about the edge rushers and the way they can get home and the way they're schemed up to become free runners, and they can get, favorable blocking schemes usually. You look at guys like Jason Owe in Baltimore, you look at guys like Matt Judon. These guys have put up high pressure rates and great sack seasons in that same system. Thibodeau is going to be that primary pass rusher. As long as he's putting in the work, he has the skills, he can be a top end sack guy in this league. He's probably not going to get you a whole ton in terms of tackles. So if your league is tackle heavy or balanced, you might lose a bit there. He's not going to get you much in the pass game outside of sacks. But man, he could be one of those guys we're talking 12, 14 sacks a year, if he's, actually putting forth full effort.
Nice. All right. Well, let's move on to the next guy here. We're jumping a few picks ahead again. We got Drake London. Finally, some offensive players to talk about here. I did not expect London to go first. I think he's great, but there's a couple wide receivers I liked a decent amount more than Drake. I know that we had him as the wide receiver 2 in this draft guide, and that's consensus thoughts there. For me, it was a little different. I went back and studied these guys a lot over the last 2 weeks, and there's a lot to like about his game. And I love his fit in Atlanta. But what do you guys think of Drake going there, and how does it affect Kyle Pitts too, if we can touch on that?
So I was going to say for me with Drake London, because one of the people that I follow that I trust from a like film studies perspective, and also like obviously comparing my eyes to theirs, Matt Harmon, fantastic with reception perception. He broke him down. And the key thing with me is because I went and compared, like, all right, what route concepts is Atlanta doing? They were 5th in the league in the amount of slants that they ran. They were 7th in the league in flat routes. Drake London with this past season, that was 35% of his routes from what Matt Harmon broke down. And in terms of his win rate on those routes, they were elite level. And like people talk about his, separation and ability to get open on man coverage. He basically mirrored Jamar Chase's success rate against man coverage at LSU. Granted, Jamar Chase in the SEC, Drake London in the Pac-12, much different level of competition at the corner position. But with Drake London, everybody knew going into it that he was going to get 15 to 16 targets, and there wasn't a single team that was able to actually defend it. I didn't think Atlanta should have taken him at 8 personally. I didn't have him as my wide receiver 1, but Atlanta now has Kyle Pitts with Drake London, 2 big body dudes. You can put the ball up in the red zone. They're going to be able to cause mayhem with what they want to do and bully people in that regard. And it comes like these 5, like Jamison Williams and these smaller bodied receivers, there's plenty of those. There's going to be more next year and the year after that. But when in terms of like the Mike Evans style, Brandon Marshall, even I feel like Michael Thomas is in a little bit of his game as well. Those guys don't come out that often. And Drake London at 8 just for them makes sense in that regard.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can add to that is Marcus Mariota is the kind of guy that he doesn't really love throwing into contested situations.
Yes.
And I'd love to see more separation, especially on in-breaking routes, because I feel like that's going to be a spot where they're going to have to win with Mariota. And maybe I'm wrong. We haven't really seen him as a full-time starter in a few years.
Sure.
But it might be one of those situations for fantasy. You're probably going to have to take this guy early. He may not produce until year 2 when they get a maybe more bona fide passer in play.
I think that is going to be the case. I think that Atlanta is going to be awful this year, even with Drake. And maybe he'll get Bryce Young here next year.
Yeah, Bryce Young sweepstakes right here.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, let's move on to another wide receiver here, taken just a couple picks later at 10 by the Jets. Nailed this pick in my mock draft. Proud of myself for that one. Garrett Wilson, my favorite wide receiver in the class, for sure. Everyone at Gridiron Ratings agreed with that too. I mean, he's the wide receiver 1 on our board. He's super polished, as pro ready as you could be. He's an animal. I love it here. I also am forcing myself now to take a little look at that sophomore quarterback that got up in New York, because all of a sudden he's got a lot of talent around him. But Zach Wilson aside, what do y'all think of Garrett Wilson over here?
Yeah, if you can start this one.
Here's the thing. I love this player. I think he's just silky smooth up and down the field. He can get in and out of routes really cleanly, and he does it effortlessly. He doesn't need a lot of additional coaching. He's not going to have trouble getting open. The only question is going to be the Jets' offense. And is Zach Wilson going to be able to get him the football? We saw Elijah Moore kind of pop down the back half of last season, but a lot of that work was done over the middle. A lot of that work was done in the space where, he was schemed open, right? This wasn't a situation where you had to say, all right, well, I've got one-on-one coverage and I've got to force a ball in there. I've got to get it into a tight window to make a play. You're going to have to do some of that with Garrett Wilson at some point because you're going to have him on the perimeter. I just don't know how he's going to get his touches. So they're going to have to reorganize this offense a little bit to get the most out of him, I think.
Yeah, and for me with Garrett Wilson, like what he did at Ohio State is ridiculous. Like their receiving core this past year was essentially the same as like what those Bama receiving cores were, where you had Garrett Wilson, Olave, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. And also at one point, Jamison Williams, which is a few picks later. But with Garrett Wilson specifically, again, it's going to be up to Zach Wilson to really get things going and actually get better at those intermediate throws, be better at taking care of the football. But the route combinations are going to be able to do with Wilson and Elijah Moore is going to put corners in spin cycles. Like both of these guys are going to be able to really create some rub routes, create some just mismatches, and make 2 corners go with one guy while the other one's just wide open. So excited to see what they can do. I mean, Matt LaFleur's little brother, Mike, is going to have to figure out how to scheme these guys open and make sure Zach Wilson takes that next step.
Yeah, this whole thing hinges on Wilson, and he was my lowest rated quarterback last season out of the first rounders last year. And so, not a lot of faith from me right now. I'm still like, ooh, look at all these weapons I can't use for fantasy because Zach Wilson stinks at football. I really hope to see some big time growth because I love Garrett Wilson. I love Elijah Moore, really like Michael Carter. I want to see all these guys pop. And right now there's no more excuses. If he can't get it done this year, next year, like you're going to see Zach Wilson going the way of Daniel Jones with no 5th-year option.
Yeah. I love it. I love it all in general. I think Zach Wilson is, again, I was with you on that, Jeff. I didn't love him last year. I thought he did okay, but he's got everything he needs now. I would be super stoked if Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback there, and I bet he would be too. It's looking juicier than it is up in Green Bay. But let's move on to the next guy here, moving down south a little bit to the Saints at pick 11. It's Chris Olave, back-to-back Ohio State wide receivers. I love Chris Olave as well. That entire offensive scheme and the offensive just personnel that they're throwing out in Ohio State over the last 4 or 5 years has been incredible. Why don't you jump in, Jordan, here a little bit on Chris?
So for a perfect receiver to pair with Michael Thomas, that's for starters. Also, Michael Thomas seemed to be pretty happy about the pick. That was another thing. He actually dropped the pick a few minutes before Rappaport or any of them tweeted it out. I was like, wait, did they pick him or is this like what's going on here? But in terms of Olave, he's the best route runner in this class. What he can do to some of these what he did to some of the corners in football was just scary. I thought he should have came out, I believe, last year because I think he stayed another year to be a senior, which was disappointing for me. I wanted to see him in last year's class a little earlier, and he probably would have went to the end of the first, been battling with probably Bateman in terms of level prospect. I mean, again, the mention of Justin Jefferson, where he's going to win on the route running. He's not going to win by being faster. He's not going to win by being just a contested catch guy. It was crazy to see him run a 4.3 at the combine. I didn't believe that time when I saw it, but supposedly he's got some 4.3 speed with him as well, which is pretty cool. But these Ohio State receivers, I think talent-wise, are going to be fine. And this class in general, these are a lot of players that I think are complements, and Chris Olave complements Michael Thomas extremely well.
Yeah, I really like Olave. I mean, a lot like Garrett Wilson, right? These are very similar guys, silky smooth route runners, the whole bit. I didn't see the 4.3 speed on any of the game footage I watched. I kind of had him pegged as a 4.45 guy. And that's not bad. That's fast. I mean, hey, you're running the 4.4s. You're still real fast. So it's like, if you don't believe me, go run a 40 yourself and see how your time is. I mean, so I like Olave, and I think we're sitting here. Hey, you got Jameis Winston out there, pitching the rock around in New Orleans, and he can support 2 number 1 fantasy receivers or near it. I mean, in Tampa Bay, when he was Mr. 30 for 30 out there, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were both fantasy viable options. And there's no reason why Olave and Michael Thomas can't be those options now, especially if Kamara misses any time due to a potential suspension.
Yeah, I hope that Kamara doesn't miss any time. I was reading a really interesting legal breakdown of that, and it sounds like it might be coming next year. That's what I'm hoping for, but it also sounds like he might be in the doghouse. But moving back to the rookies, I love Chris. You guys said it all. I'm not going to add anything more here. Let's move on to the next guy, Jamison Williams. A lot of people before the draft thought he was going to go first. I wasn't really sure about all that. It seemed like a lot of typical, week before the draft, crazy hype. But he did end up going number 12, and he was one of the, 6 wide receivers taken in the top 20. I mean, just an absurd amount of wide receiver talent in this class. He's a burner, but he's a lot more than that. And I keep seeing these comparisons online to him and guys like Henry Ruggs. People have this Henry Ruggs Alabama fatigue. Not another Henry Ruggs. First of all, I don't think he's going to, hurt anyone with a car. But to add to that, he's got a lot more to his game than Ruggs did. He's a pretty polished guy. I just worry a little bit about coming back from the injury. But what do you guys think about Jamison?
Jordan's a Bama fan. I'm going to let him lead off.
So with Jamison Williams, again, you mentioned he's not a go route. he had 6 targets on fly routes. That's it. That's not Ted Ginn just running straight and just catching the ball for touchdowns. No, he wins on the deep crossers, deep posts, where he can go full speed at you, break down, and separate his hips and post corner or post route. Like, watch the Georgia game if you really want to see what Jamison Williams is capable of doing, because one, that was an NFL defense, and two, like, he destroyed them. They had no answer. And it's not that those players weren't NFL talent. It's just what he was doing was perfect for Alabama's system. And he was game breaker. If he doesn't tear his ACL, I think he would have been the first overall or first receiver taken. Not that the ACL injury scared teams away necessarily, but it's like you didn't get to really see him do anything. So it's really hard when you're comparing guys that are actually fully healthy. And he's actually started to jog, which is really nice. He's probably going to be, with this situation, perfect to be like, hey, you're going to start out in the pup. We don't care to get you back until you're 150% healthy. Like, there is no reason to rush him back. Don't love the landing spot because Detroit is just, with Jared Goff, what he has kind of become has been tough to buy into. However, he did have some fantasy upside with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. And with this situation, like, they're not going to double him. Like, nobody's going to go out there and game plan against him. They're just going to kind of treat the Detroit Lions as a base defense. They're more worried about that offensive line just mauling them because that's a perfect team. If Detroit had a quarterback, they're built to be a very, very good football team going forward.
I think they have the quarterback. I'm not that worried about Goff. I look at Jared Goff, and I mean, he's not a game breaker, right? He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Justin Herbert, but he can keep the ship steady. He's not going to cost you games. He's not Daniel Jones out there. If you've got a little bit of a defense and you can run the ball and they have plenty of weapons in the passing game, there's no reason why they can't win. Jamison Williams is a perfect complement to everything they've got going on with Hawkinson, with the sun god Amon-Ra. And, you've got Swift out there. You brought in DJ Chark. Williams is a much better version of what Chark offers. Now, we've got Deshaun Jackson as our similar player in the draft guide. Williams runs better routes than Deshaun did coming out of Cal. Like, I remember watching the footage of Jackson. So to show my age a little bit here, I don't know if you can see it in all the gray, but, he's a better player. This is a guy that can beat you with subtlety and nuance and changing speeds. This is a guy that can beat you on a little bit of route running savvy. He's going to beat you in a lot of ways. Yeah, the ACL is going to slow him down this year. I'm not looking for year one production, but before the year's over, he'll have some impact games. I wouldn't be shocked if, he has a couple of those big games and like, whoa, Jamison Williams coming out party, and everyone gets stoked about him for next year. I'm taking him with confidence in the middle of the first round of rookie drafts. And I'm actually interested in the Lions offense this year. I'm looking at that group and I'm thinking to myself, okay, what defense in the NFC North scares me? Green Bay's lost a bunch of parts, that could be a shootout type game. Chicago, frankly, just isn't very good. And they got rid of dang near everybody. That defense is completely stripped out. And then you've got the Vikings. They're in full rebuild mode right now. Like, who do they have? They brought in Lewis Seen. You've got Harrison Smith, who's pretty much dried up. And that defense is kind of in tatters at the moment. Like, this team could go out and put up, a couple of, 25, 35 point weeks in their division. And those games matter when you're playing fantasy. You're talking, hey, I've got 6 games that I can count on some big production. I kind of like it. I'm looking real close at that group as somebody I might want to invest in this year.
Do you guys think this is going to do anything to aid or hamper DeAndre Swift's pass catching production? Or just negligent?
It doesn't matter. They don't impact each other.
Yeah. Nah, like, for me, I don't think Jamison Williams, like, even in his top tier years, is going to get over like 125 targets or anything crazy. Like, I think he's going to, or I think he'll hover around that type of number. I think the person that kind of gets hurt the most, to be honest, is probably Hawkinson. Like, I think Amon-Ra and Jamison Williams will get a lot. And then when it comes to Hawkinson, like, he might just kind of, it's like almost like George Kittle with San Fran, where there are just certain games where he's just not an impact player on the offense because he's blocking. He's just hanging out. Sure. He's drawing coverages, that type of thing.
Fair enough. Well, I love the Sun God. I hope that they pair well together. Let's move on to the next, though. I'm going back to some IDP here real quick. One of my favorite prospects in the whole draft, an absolute freak. What do we call him in the draft guide, Jeff?
He's comped to the Incredible Hulk.
He broke all the statistical analysis tools people use to analyze D-line combine results. This is Jordan Davis, pick 13 to the Eagles. I love it. I think Fletcher Cox is back again this year, right? So
He is. He signed a 1-year deal. He's back.
Him and Davis will probably be on the field together anyway, but this is probably the heir apparent to that Fletcher Cox role, and it looks like the Eagles aren't going to miss a beat without him.
Yeah, for me with Jordan Davis, like, again, he's just going to model after Fletcher Cox. He's the replacement for it. And my God, Philly just had a phenomenal draft. Like, I can't even, I hate it. I don't like the Eagles. They hurt, they've hurt me a few times in DFS, so I just don't repay it. But this man, there was a quote from a South Carolina coach, Beamer over there. And they asked him, like, why didn't you guys score too many points? He's like, they have a 6'6", 400-pound man that runs a 4.3, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, it's really hard to score when they have guys like that, and they just rotate them in. And I'm like, that's hilarious. And also, the Incredible Hulk is a perfect comp for this type of monster.
We've got a weird spacing in there. I'm going to have to address that. I'll take a look at that and get that fixed. I don't know what's going on there.
Got scared by the Hulk.
It did.
You had to make room.
They're scared. They're all scattering. Look, Jordan Davis broke all the metrics. We've already talked about that. A lot of people had him kind of earmarked as a zero technique playing nose tackle. Don't get confused by that. This dude can move up and down the D line. He can very easily slide into a 3-tech, and he can be everywhere in between. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see him move around. He's not going to twist and stunt like some other guys might, but really, really love what he brings to the table in terms of just strength, speed, tenacity. He's probably only given you about 30 snaps a game, though. You're talking 25, 30 snaps. They're probably going to pull him off the field, when it comes down to those heavy pass rush, downs. So we might see him split those a little bit. So if you're in a sack-heavy league, this guy might not be for you. But if you get TFLs and you get bonuses there, tackle for loss, or if you are in a tackle-heavy spot, this is a dude that can eat up multiple blockers and still get a tackle. I just don't see him being a heavy sack dude.
I'm just going to throw in the IDP leagues that I play in, we do pretty balanced scoring, and I only play on MFL for IDP because I can go in and get granular with the scoring settings. And I encourage anyone that is looking to start an IDP league to reach out to me on Twitter at Ronnie A. Evans, or just shoot me a message on Reddit, and I can give you a breakdown on this one league that I've spent 6 years kind of perfecting. And they're bringing this up because defensive tackles in most IDP formats get overlooked because they don't typically have the sack upside that you need for the DN scoring settings that are becoming a little standard across the board. If you're in a league that rewards people equally, no matter what position they play on defense, a guy like Jordan Davis is a absolute fire starter for your dynasty team. And even if it's not a defensive tackle required league or a simple just a basic IDP scoring dynasty league, Jordan's still a guy that I'm going to be targeting everywhere I can in my dynasty drafts. I love him. I think he's going to be productive for years to come. He's an absolute monster at every facet of the game, and he's scary, and I like scary players. He's a big, terrifying person that could chase me down now, could have chased me down 15 years ago when I was in shape. Freaks me out. Let's move on to the next guy.
He's the kind of guy that actually ate more, standard defensive tackles.
Well, we move on to my favorite defensive prospect in the whole class, Kyle Hamilton. Everyone got all poo-pooey on this guy because his combine wasn't just the best thing since sliced bread. But I wonder if they just forgot about the tape. The combine's nice for numbers and figuring out what people do in their spandex when they're practicing specific drills. But when it comes to play on the field, there is hardly a player in this class that looks better and looks more prepared than Kyle Hamilton. I love him. He's our DB1. I'd say he's probably, for me, a top 6 IDP player in this rookie class. Jeff's got his hearts out right now. What do you think about Kyle, Jordan?
For me, I'll keep it short and simple. I've been talking about this guy for a little while. Jokingly, I'm like, if Panthers don't go tackle or quarterback, like if we just picked him, that'd be fun. Jeremy Chin and him just floating around back there. But I think he's top 5 player in this class. Like in terms of just overall, like it's easy to look at what he can do to a football field, like on a football team, and just be like, wow, this is an immediate impact starter. And the Ravens forever will always find a way to get guys like this. I don't know how they do it every freaking year, where it's just like, wait, this guy's a top 10 player. Oh wait, he's there at 20. He's the Raven. Like, every single year, Patrick Queen, freaking Marlon Humphrey, like so many guys just fall into their laps every year. And this is just another one, but I'll let Jeff take this away because I know this is where his heart lies.
Yeah. So, yeah, you want to talk about man crush. Kyle Hamilton's actually my second best player in the class. Aiden Hutchinson was one. But Hamilton screams Hall of Fame level potential. This guy is a bigger version of Derwin James. He can cover all over the field. He can tackle. He hits like an absolute freight train. He has zero trouble making plays from the secondary into the backfield. He can go ahead and play from sideline to sideline despite the 4.6 speed. He didn't look like 4.6 when I saw him running around on film. This is another one of those situations where some guys have that track speed and some guys have game speed. Hamilton has the instincts and the game speed to be something special. I'm not worried about the track speed. On the film, this is a 4.5 player easily. That's more than fast enough for any safety position. We're going to see him playing up in the box with some frequency. We haven't seen a safety of this caliber in Baltimore since Ed Reed. Yeah. And so, this is going to be that guy where he can ball hawk, he can hit, he's going to give you a little bit of everything. He should be drafted as the 1 or 2 in terms of overall IDP players in your IDP leagues this year, period. Like, absolutely. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I have him profiled as a guy who's going to put up, 100 plus tackles a year potentially and still net you a handful of interceptions and other turnover worthy plays.
He's ridiculous. He's one of the handful of guys in this class. There's a few every year. There's more this year than there were last year, in my opinion, but he's got a Hall of Fame trajectory. Yeah. And I'm confident saying that before he takes a snap in the NFL. He's that good. He's going to be a difference maker on your teams. I love him. Move on, though. I just wanted to make one comment, though. You see up here where it says overall 15. When we were putting this draft guide together, we uploaded everything, and something happened with those positional rankings and the transfers. Just ignore those. He's the DB1. It says overall 15 for a few of the players. We'll get that fixed for the downloads when you guys go and pull in the draft guide for yourselves.
I'm actually going to be updating all those Sunday based on positions anyway. So
yeah, we're going to have to shuffle some players around based on landing spots, but it's silly to do that before the draft plays out. So probably updates coming in Sunday.
Yeah, it'll be Sunday.
So next, going back to some offense here, Jahan Dotson. Is it Jahan? Jahan Dotson. I'm glad I said it right the first time. I love him. I think he's good. I don't really have a ton else to add on him. I do think that this is good for Terry McLaurin, though, and I am very happy about that.
I hate the landing spot. I like Jahan Dotson as a talent. I like the way he's a player, but for fantasy purposes, the Carson Wentz wide receiver 2 doesn't excite me. That's just saying that out loud just makes me feel gross. Like, I was really
want the rookie wide receiver 2 for Carson Wentz.
No, not at all.
An franchise.
With
a bad offensive line.
I wish this man found a way to Kansas City or Green Bay. That would have been fantastic. Just because what he does, like, he has a similar. He's like lesser Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. Like, he has that ability to just effortless speed, break in on deep crossers, and just be separation across the field. Wentz just doesn't have the ability to make that go. It's like, Deontay Johnson to Stephon Diggs in terms of like comparisons. That's like Deontay Johnson is just lesser Stephon Diggs. This is the same way that Dotson is in terms of what things are. And like, I just wish he was anywhere else, because as a college football DFS guy, this guy broke some slates, made some things happen, and he's used to bad quarterback play. Clifford was awful, so he'll be fine in that regard. I just wish this man would just get a good quarterback one time.
Well, according to Reddit, he thinks the Chainsmokers would have dusted Beethoven. So that's concerning. But I love him. Jeff, do you have anything to add with just his situation in Washington and kind of what to expect in Dynasty? Like, is he a guy that people should be targeting in the first round of rookie drafts?
Look, we don't know if McLaurin's, going to be sticking around there with, with Wentz. We don't know what that situation's going to look like. You always bet on talent in Dynasty. Okay. Go ahead and take the talented player. He's just that. He's probably got the best hands in this draft. The guy's unbelievable. You got to remember, guys like Odell Beckham, he was the third receiver taken in that class? And then he came out and lit the world on fire. I'm not saying Dotson's going to do that with Carson Wentz, but I'm not saying he can't either. Like, this is a
Sure,
player where if you're talking about at the end of the first round, guys, the Olaves and the Wilsons and the Williams and all those guys are already off the board. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't be staring at this guy right there, between the end of the first and beginning of the second round.
Fair enough. Anything else to add on Dotson before we dump into Treylon Burks over here?
No, I'm good.
Moving on. Treylon Burks. This guy jumping over to the Titans, replacing A.J. Brown. We can take a quick moment here and pour one out for all of the Devonta Smith truthers out there for the immediate future. I think Devonta will still be fine long term, but Treylon Burks is he could be just like A.J. Brown. He's like that Family Guy meme. It could be a box full of nothing. It might be a boat. The Titans made that gamble, and he's great. He's kind of the same guy as A.J. Brown with a little less polished route running at this point, but A.J. came into the league pretty raw as well on that front, so we'll see if the Titans can coach him up. What do you guys think of Treylon?
I think the Titans basically are playing this the exact way that majority of Dynasty players play. They have a good player, and then they trade the good player for the rookie pick, and then they pick a player at the same position as the rookie pick. Like, I like Treylon Burks. This is a really, really good landing spot for him, but I'm interested to see what Tennessee is going to do. I mean, I think that type of move just kind of says like you have Derrick Henry. You don't want to give him 300 touches every year, but with what they just did, that's what they're going to do. And I mean, there's rumors of them possibly taking Malik Willis in this next round. So, like, are they going to more rebuild style of things? Are they kind of realizing the AFC is now here and they're like here still? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm very intrigued to see what they do for the rest of this draft. But in terms of opportunity, Treylon Burks is probably stepping into the best one out of the rookie receivers.
It's fair. This was a guy before, when last year's draft ended and I was looking ahead to 2022, this was my number one dynasty pick. I had him on the board. I was like, okay, Treylon Burks is going to be the 101 in 2022. That hasn't really worked out that way. It's not a production thing. This guy has wide receiver one upside all over him. He's an unbelievable player. He can do a little bit of everything. The comp here, we talked it over. We had DK Metcalf was our guy. That's simply because we thought he would measure better. We looked at him at the combine. We watched him on film and we watched him at the combine. I'm like, he seems faster on tape than he is. Sure. He's playing against the SEC. Like, they're good teams. A lot of that this year with these players. Yeah, a lot of things didn't jive there. So here's the thing. He's a tough guy that's willing to get the football. He's not as polished route running as A.J. Brown. And A.J. Brown, is good, not great when it comes to route running. Let's be honest. I've got him in there with DK Metcalf simply because I really feel like they're both size, speed specimens that are going to go out and make the difference when they get the ball in their hands. The trick is going to be, how do they get it to him? And if it's Tannehill, I don't know that that's going to equate to enough touches to make him viable right away. And if it's Malik Willis, what's the development path look like? This is a really curious landing spot. It's a good team, but are they going to try and use him like Debo? They're going to try and get it to him on those little short touch passes and let him just go? I don't know that they'll do that.
I think that the DK comparison is great to an extent. I agree. These comparisons were made pre-combine, and that's why we're updating everything after the draft now. But the two things that stand out to me strictly with DK, they're big guys. Burks isn't as cut. He doesn't walk around with his shirt off as much as DK does. But
country strong, though.
In terms of like big possession guys that can stretch the field and can't really run routes coming out of college and also don't have the best lateral agility, great comparison to DK there. Doesn't mean a dang thing when it comes to his ability to produce at the NFL level. It just depends on what his quarterback situation is going to be long term and really what the Titans offensive scheme is going to be, which you guys have alluded to. I was talking to a buddy last night, and the Titans, it seems to me, they would never admit this, and NFL coaches and GMs never, ever try not to win Super Bowls, but subconsciously they make, educated and economic decisions. I think you hit the nail on the head, Jordan. The AFC is loaded. They've got to know that they're probably the 7th or 8th best team in the AFC right now, and they might not even be the best team in their own division right now. And so I think that they moved A.J. Brown to save some cap space and make sure that they're ready to go for the next few years and still building a good core to expand upon. But I like Treylon Burks. I don't know what to expect of him year one. It'll be interesting. Let's move on to Kenny Pickett. Snuck that one in there on ya. We all know the Burger King commercial. Kenny Pickett with his tiny little 7-inch hands. Let's get a real picture of him up. There's the whole story with Kenny is that people think he's reached his ceiling. I kind of agree with that. I was watching him play against Tennessee in the Tennessee Pitt game at the beginning of the college season last year, and I looked over at my brother and I said, this guy's going to be the first quarterback taken in this class. And lo and behold, that ended up being true at the 20th pick, and he's the only one taken because this class is doo-doo. That said, he's from Pitt. He's going to Pitt. He's staying home. They've got Mason Rudolph. Clearly, they don't care too much for Mason, even though they've got him. What do you guys think of Pitt in Pittsburgh, or Pickett in Pittsburgh?
Well, Mitch Trubisky, I mean, they signed Mitch Trubisky, and they're going to have him battle with Kenny Pickett. Mason, I think, honestly gets cut at this point with just kind of the way.
Trubisky, not Rudolph.
You're good. But with that, like, I like this landing spot best of any the landing spots he could have kind of found himself in, just because they have the wide receiver talent that will allow him to just go get the ball to him. I kind of like, it reminds me of like, it sounds awful because I don't think he's that good of a prospect, or like he's not a great prospect. So like Andy Dalton, they're Daniel Jones, but you look at Andy Dalton versus Daniel Jones. Andy Dalton went to an AJ Green loaded Cincinnati team in those early years, and Daniel Jones went to the Giants, who have just been a complete dumpster fire. With Pittsburgh, you've got Deontay, you got Claypool. The only problem is you have Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Deshaun Watson in that division. Really, really tough to sell yourself that you're going to be able to be better than those teams. But Mike Tomlin has consistently been a winning coach. He has never had a losing season, which is just crazy to me. And with Kenny Pickett, I would have liked to see him go O-line at this pick personally. Like, I would have liked to see him just take Linderbaum, just because might as well just get a guy that you know right away. Trubisky is going to be fine. But at the end of the day, this is a hometown kid. He can throw the ball accurately, and they have the weapons in place for him to be good enough. It's kind of like he's like a young Jimmy G to like San Fran. Like, that's the way, stylistically, like that's how I feel, where he has the weapons in place, and you're not paying him $25 million. So that's good news.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. People keep talking about Pickett. Oh, late bloomer. So is Joe Burrow. Oh, he's probably reached his ceiling with, how much more can he do? They said that kind of junk about Herbert too. The question becomes, what do people really know about his potential? It's something you can't possibly measure. I see this kid as somebody who's athletic enough to play at this level. He can throw. He still has a little bit of work to do with intermediate accuracy. Like, you'll see even on his highlights, he'll have some balls that are kind of up and away over the middle. You need to kind of control those a little bit. But, hey, this is a guy that can play football. He plays with gloves on. I don't care.
You don't say.
Yeah. I mean, but people could worry about that. And I'm like, I don't worry about that. I'm not even a little concerned. He played at Pitt. He's going into Pittsburgh. Nothing changes. They were with this kid every single day in their facility, because the Pitt Panthers and the Steelers share a facility. So they know this guy. I love the landing spot. I love the fit. I don't think he's hit his ceiling. And while those other quarterbacks in the division are a whole hell of a lot more exciting, the Steelers do a much better job of surrounding their signal caller with all the right pieces. So, I mean, you've got Najee, Jordan already alluded to the wideouts. You got Freiermuth is there, and he's going to be Pickett's best friend if he ends up playing. But, I mean, heck, this could easily turn into a situation where Pickett sits the whole year behind Trubisky, and we don't see him until next year anyway.
Yeah.
And that would be perfect for him, because then he can step in and hit the ground running. I think he's got a ceiling that's higher than the Jimmy G's and the Goffs of the world, but it's probably not going to be a top 10 quarterback in the league. He's going to hover in that, probably 10 to 14, 16 category, maybe. So, I mean,
Sure.
Ask yourself, I spent first round draft capital. Is that really what I'm comfortable with?
Yeah,
Maybe
I get a little worried too with him in the offensive line situation over there in Pittsburgh. They've got a defensive gauntlet in that division too. Everyone likes to talk about the AFC West, but like it's no slouch up there in the North. It's really, really good across the board defensively, and the Bengals, I think, are going to take a step forward this year as well. Do you guys have him? We had him as the quarterback too. in Dynasty and as a prospect. Does this change, or like, let's say that Malik Willis goes to the Seahawks and Desmond Ridder goes to the Lions. Where would you put Pickett with those two landing spots?
He's still number 2.
Yeah.
It's the thing of it is, like, we need to see these other landing spots, and at the moment we should assume that he won't play this year. I think that should be the going assumption. The odds of him walking in and beating out Trubisky in the eyes of Mike Tomlin and the Steelers brass, because that's the trick. It's not whether or not he actually played better. It's whether or not he played better in their eyes. And
Chris, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, Chris asked, I totally interrupted you. You're welcome. Chris asked, did Najee's stock go up with this pick? I'll let you guys answer that one.
It's a push. It's a push. It doesn't really matter because unless Pickett plays this year, I don't think his stock goes up. I mean, it's already pretty high. Like when you think
I can't imagine. I keep interrupting you.
Yeah. Quiet down, host. In the corner over there. Look, Najee's already had, his stock's already really high. He's an RB1 right now. It can't go much higher whether Pickett plays or doesn't play. What would really help Najee, though, is if the Steelers could figure out how to get some linemen. That's going to be the next move.
Malik Willis would have hurt Najee just from a
Yes.
rushing perspective. So, like, Kenny Pickett, even though, he created a rule in college, man created the fake slide. He is not going to be the mobile quarterback.
He does have legs, though.
Yes, he has like Andrew Luck legs where he can do it. He's gonna run for some yards here and there, but like at most in a rushing game, I think he gets like 50 at the top. He's just not gonna take off and run. The good news is Deontay Johnson will be his Jordan Addison, and that's the player I'm really intrigued with going forward. Hopefully, if Pickett beats out Trubisky in camp, Deontay Johnson will be a very high receiver for me.
I'll be moving Freiermuth up too.
Let's real quick again, just before we move on to the next pick, just want to say thanks to Dynasty FF and the mods over there. You guys are fantastic. Thanks for posting this and letting us jump into the sub. I love it. You guys are amazing. Moving on to the next guy, Quay Walker, jumping back into IDP. I was shocked by this. I can't believe they traded up to grab this guy. I'll let you dive in on this, Jeff, because I've heard you talk a lot about him. He's a good prospect and everything, but really?
Jordan and I had a conversation about this like 2 or 3 days ago, and Jordan told me this was going to happen. And I was like, that would be really dumb to take Quay Walker over Nakobe Dean. Dean is the superior. He doesn't have the same size Quay Walker does, but he's the superior prospect. And lo and behold, here we are. I saw the Packers trade up. I'm like, oh, they're taking Nakobe Dean. Here we go. Or it's on. Quay Walker. And I almost fell out of my chair last night. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And, look, it's not that he's not a good player. It's that you took him ahead of a guy that basically from a trade standpoint is the closest thing to Derek Brooks that we've seen in, I don't know, since Derek Brooks. And you passed on that guy for Quay Walker, who, for fantasy, he's not going to be great. I mean, we've got a Leighton Vander Esch comp on him. Like that's it.
Yeah.
So.
Everyone says he pops on screen, and I watched a lot of those Georgia games. I live down here in Atlanta. My whole extended family are Georgia fans. As a Tennessee fan, it's been rough the last few years. And he looks good. Like, he makes plays. He consistently finds himself getting in the right place. But I don't think, as you alluded to, that he fits perfectly in the NFL the way a guy like Nakobe Dean would.
He was the 10th best player on their defense this year.
Yeah. I wonder about him. Like, I could digress a lot on this Quay Walker pick. But that Georgia defense, one of these guys that was taken is not going to pan out in the NFL. They all are really good, and they all made each other better by being on the field at the same time. And my money might be on Quay.
I was going to say, if someone's not going to pan out, one of them was picked at number 1, and the other one went to the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, with Quay Walker, with Quay Walker versus Nakobe Dean would have literally been the Deion Jones to Devondre Campbell. They would have replicated just the speed of those two, and just like, hey, Devondre, you cover. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I'm just going to fill the gap and tackle the pitch. Like, don't worry about those plays. I got that. You can handle all the coverage stuff. And like, Quay Walker was the guy who helped coverage. Like, I'm just interested to see what Devondre Campbell and Quay Walker look like on the field. They're both guys that are off ball, cover tight ends. Like,
Yeah.
What's the point? Trying to figure out one
It's
out.
really strange. It says he learned all his zip codes from a Ludacris track. That's fine. I'm partial to Mike Jones.
Who?
Mike Jones. Who? 8004. Moving on. Jermaine Johnson, the second edge rusher, Florida. We have him listed as a linebacker because he technically is an outside linebacker. He's also on a lot of sites as a defensive end. He's that edge guy. He's going to get after the passer. He's going to put his hand in the dirt sometimes. He's going to play standing up other times. Just a real quick, we have Max Crosby as the comparison. Max Crosby took like 20 years to break out, and then he finally did. Do we think that's going to happen with Jermaine?
I think he can break out year one. I mean, I think the Jets had probably the best draft to start. Like the 3 picks that they got. I mean, New York killed it this year. Like those 5 picks for those 2 teams are phenomenal.
Yeah.
With Jermaine Johnson, Quinnen Williams is going to be his best friend because Quinnen Williams will take the guard and take the center and be like, you come here, you're not going there. Jermaine, you work on the tackle. Like you just run by him. I thought he was probably the best pass rusher, like pure pass rusher in this class. And with Slaw, like he's going to get the opportunity. And in that division, like those tackles aren't crazy good. Like I know the Dolphins just got one, but in terms of the Patriots and the Bills, he's going to be able to run by their tackles. Like he's going to, and chasing down Josh Allen and Mac Jones, be very different animals, but at the same time, it's something that I think Slav really is excited to see because they needed that type of pass rusher, and he'll be able to rotate. He's not going to have to be on the field every single play because they have the guy they just paid. I can't forget his name. Yeah, and well, no, not Carl Lawson. The one who was during the season. The dude had like 7 sacks within the first 9 games.
I know
3 names. Yeah, and then they have Carl
Hewitt?
Lawson.
Right. I always forget that cat's name too.
Is it Neville Hewitt?
No. That was the guy.
I'll find it. I'll find it while Jeff talks. But like,
yeah, there you go.
For him,
look it up all
perfect. It's like
I love
coming
Jermaine
on third down.
Yeah, I think this is a guy that we're going to plug in. I would have loved him in Pittsburgh or Baltimore, where he could have been kind of the other pass rusher, where he would have gotten more favorable blocking schemes because he's got just a ton of upside. He's a guy that can take on one-on-one blocks and still get home. And so I don't know if he's in a position where he's got to face double teams constantly, if he's going to win. He's a little undersized for that and get swallowed up a little easily. You know, he's not a 0 in the run game, but he needs to kind of bulk up a little bit if he's going to end up being a guy. Jordan, it looks like you got the name there, John Franklin Myers.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yep. And they just re-upped him.
What am I talking about over here?
Yeah, I have no idea. It's okay.
I didn't eat breakfast. I was up at 5:30 in the morning. Leave me alone.
It's okay. We appreciate all the work you put in. All these graphics look fantastic. So nice work. Love Jermaine Johnson. I think deployment will be interesting. Does he become the Nick Bosa guy where they're going to try and, get him out on a wide 9? They're going to bring him in on a 5. Like, what technique are they going to put him in? Or are they going to just bounce him all over? He's a little light. So I don't know if you're going to twist him and stun him inside very often. Not that he can't do it, but again, at the NFL level, it's a little different animal than the ACC. So deployment's going to be a thing. I love him in blended IDP leagues, especially sack heavy. I'm going to go ahead and take him, put him in as an edge. I don't mind putting him in as a D end or even an outside backer in some scenarios. Obviously take your Thibodeaux and your Hutchinsons and all those guys first, but Johnson is a nice consolation prize.
So looking at the personnel that the Jets now have on their defensive line, where do you guys have Jermaine compared to the first 3 defensive ends that went in this class for IDP? Is he moving up the board, jumping anyone?
I mean, I just looked at Mr. John Franklin Myers' contract. He has no guaranteed money from 2023 to 2025. For a dynasty perspective, that seems like this will be a year where Jermaine rotates, and I don't think he'll be the every day or every snap type of guy compared to the first 3 DNs. But after this year going forward, I feel like this is the type of player that if your IDP league, if players aren't exactly keeping up with something like, oh, he's not rotating, this guy's signed a huge contract, he's not going to be gone. It's like he has 0 guaranteed money next year and every year after. So I feel like this is someone that you could probably trade for after or during the season.
Sure. I like that.
Boom.
All right, let's move on to what was, I thought, a curious selection, considering the Aluaquan pickup, but a much better prospect than the prior linebacker we just talked about. Devin Lloyd, going to the Jaguars. It's a linebacker from Utah. Love him. We got him comped to Jordan Brooks, who is going to blow up this year in Seattle. What do you guys think about Devin Lloyd going to the Jags?
I didn't understand it for how much money they just gave a little Kwano guy. I forgot. I can't.
Aluaquan.
He deserved to be a top probably 20 pick. Like coverage wise, like you don't see that as a linebacker because he's a converted safety, and what he did at Utah was phenomenal. There's a few plays where like he doesn't get after the quarterback, and like if he goes to the line of scrimmage as on a blitz and he notices like, wait, the guard sees me, he just stands there and will jump up to try to swat a pass down. He had a pick six like that. That was pretty impressive. I liked where the Jaguars got him. I didn't really care for them to trade up to get him. I'm not going to comment more so on the fantasy side because Jeff will be more knowledgeable in that regard. I do see that Andrew Roxas said, who is the winner of the draft? Is it the Jets? I think New York just imperially, like those two teams and the Ravens, those three are my top three if I had to rank them. I think if you told me in last year that a team was going to walk away with Thibodeau and Evan Neal, I would have been like, who has two top three picks with Stingley going in the middle? So I'm going to give it to the Giants. I know Kyle Hamilton and Linderbaum are fantastic. I would probably put the Ravens 3 just because the Jets had 3 first-round picks and they got 3 guys that I also really like. But the Giants got 2 guys where last year these were 2 top 5 picks. And even in this class, like you could make the argument that they're 2 top 5 picks. So I would have taken the Giants as the best draft so far.
I mean, the Jets cheat because they get the extra pick, but the Lions, obviously, you get Hutch at 2 plus Jamison Williams. I mean, that's pretty clutch. For me, it's so hard to go away from the Ravens, though. I just love the combination of Kyle Hamilton on defense for what they can do and how they're going to deploy him, and then Linderbaum. Like, they just plugged in 2 All-Pros that have really no question marks. And so some of the other guys have some question marks that need to be answered still. So give me what I would consider the closest thing to the 2 sure thing players versus some of the other guys. So
I'm going to go with the Jets. I know they had the extra pick, but Jermaine Johnson, Jordan was alluding to earlier, he was his favorite edge rusher in the class. This is not the first time I've heard that. I heard that from a lot of people. One of my best friends who's a Jets fan and also does a lot of fantasy football analysis was talking to me the other day about how excited he was about Jermaine. And he was saying that he was hoping they could get him at pick 10. They got Jermaine, 22? So like,
yeah.
I think that you got potentially the best wide receiver in the class, the best cornerback, and the best outside linebacker / edge rusher. Home run right there. But all 3 of those teams had great drafts. Let's move on to Devante Wyatt going interior over for the Packers. Aaron Rodgers apparently was not in shambles. I thought he might be, but he's immunized to being upset. He said something about the team communicating to him that the wide receivers they wanted were gone and there wasn't a wide receiver with a first-round talent left to take, so they were going defense, and he okayed it.
Yeah. No, I saw that McAfee show, and I mean, they didn't, like, the Quay Walker pick, I don't like it, but again, if you told me, hey, this team went into this draft and they wanted to get defense and they got 2 Georgia players in the first round, I'd have been like, oh, that probably had a good draft. Like, I don't know. That's a good replica of success. And it's funny that Kenny Clark is the similar player for you guys because he's going to be playing right with them. So Wyatt, I mean, his age, he's a little bit older, but at the same time, this team's on a Super Bowl run. This is what they're trying to do. So this is perfect for them. And in that division, like, they're in the interior offense line doesn't scare me on any of those teams except for Detroit. Devante Wyatt will help slow that down and make it a little bit easier for the Packers.
Sure.
Yeah, I love Wyatt. I mean, this is a guy that I really enjoyed during the Senior Bowl process and the combine, basically the whole draft process. You know, the only things that came up with him is he does have a little bit of a dust up on a domestic violence issue. And so that may have pushed his stock down a little bit. Seems to have maybe been brushed under the rug. I don't know. To go in the first round, no one seems to have brought that
tape,
up.
no problem. That's the NFL.
Yeah, so I mean, hey, fact is he got drafted this early, so maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. But he's also 24. This is a player who's a 1 contract guy. So the Packers took him with the understanding that they're probably going to let him run the 5 years. Maybe he gets a franchise tag if he's legit, right? And then they probably just let him walk. And we'll see how it goes. But I love him as a Kenny Clark kind of clone. This is a guy that can go from 0 to 3 and play all the techniques in between. Super active with his hands, great first step. He's a little stout, so he gets great leverage. He can get underneath linemen and move them around a little bit. Effective in the run game, can get interior pressure in the pass game. Really like everything he brings to the table. Putting him and Clark next to each other is going to be a really great fit. It'll help them stop the run, which is something they were just god awful at last year. And he's going to get enough pressure inside to help out whatever pass rusher they find to get after the quarterback. Because they still need one of those.
I love it. I don't think that he has the same potential for IDP to production that Jordan Davis does, but he's not going to be a slouch by any means. We've got him in here as a must roster if you're in a DT required team or a league, excuse me. And I agree with that. I think there's a couple guys on the interior D line in this draft that were pretty elite. And Devante is one of those players. And so I think he's great. He's a big boy. He's going to gobble up some tackles. And let's move on to one of the last few guys here, George Karlaftis Taffy over here. George, to the Chiefs. We didn't mention them, but I thought the Chiefs had an incredible first round as well, and I could not believe they got him so late in the first. Defensive end out of Purdue. Is he shooting up y'all's draft boards in terms of rookie IDP players?
I mean, the Chiefs went the Patriot way, I feel like, where they're like, all right, Mahomes, you're good enough. You make anything work. So here's your Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez. Go figure that out. We're going to figure out just picking defensive players. No, this is a good fit for their scheme. I mean, they're going to be able to stun him. They're going to be able to do some things and just get after the quarterback. I don't like where their money is allocated on the defensive side of the ball. But at the same token, if you're giving Patrick Mahomes a better defense, that's going to help him out in the long run.
Are we talking about the Frank Clark contract?
Yeah.
It's I don't think he's long for their roster, and this pick probably validates that. The folks in Kansas City, it's been a while, but I'm sure some of those guys remember what it was like to have Jared Allen there. And I see shades of that in Karlaftis' game. He's not as quick or as explosive in terms of just like that speed rush, but he brings enough tenacity and strength where he can set the edge and he can still get home. Does a really nice job just being able to kind of rip and get that one arm around to be disruptive and push the quarterback off his spot. Really like him a lot as a player. This is going to be a situation where if you get points for QB hit, Karlaftis is going to be a really useful player.
I don't mean to go back to this, but AJ Brown told some Davenport guy, basically, I forgot his first name, but the Titans offered him $16 million a year with incentives to get to $20 million. How disrespectful is that type of offer?
I mean, to be fair, how many games has that guy missed?
I know. I was going to say he can't stay healthy.
But talent, but less than Christian Kirk.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. If I'm a GM, I'm looking at my wide receiver saying, I'm not paying you based on the Christian Kirk comp because that's the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, but guaranteed money, you could have lowered that. I'm just saying. Like he got 47 guaranteed from the Philly for $100 million. That makes sense. 4 years. But like I just can't believe they offered him $16 million a year.
That's gross. That's gross.
Well, like the Marlins of the NFL. But continue.
Let's wrap this thing up with these last two IDP spots here. We got some defensive backs. We got Daxton Hill went to the Bengals. I was alluding to earlier that I like the way they're shoring up that defense. I think this is a great addition. Jeff, what do you think about Daxton?
Super versatile player. He can play safety. He can play slot corner. They're going to move him all over the secondary here. Because of the way he's going to get moved around and where he's going to get moved around, it could really impede his fantasy production. He might actually get moved down a little bit. It's not that he can't be productive. It's that I worry that the Bengals are going to put him in positions where he's not going to be around the ball as much as I want him to be. If he would have gone somewhere else where he could have been a number one safety, all the traits of a guy like a Kevin Byard, he can go track the ball in the air. He's a reliable tackler. He can do a little bit of everything. Would have liked him on my taxi squad, especially on a different team. But, when you're playing in the same secondary as guys like Jesse Bates, it's going to be hard to muscle up production. because the back half of that defense is going to have a lot of really talented players, and I just don't see a ton of fantasy production there for him.
Yeah, for Daxton Hill, Lewin Amaro, I was tracking it during the season. He completely changed their defense. they revamped everything from 2020 to 2021, and going forward, this is just another player that's going to continue that. They play a ton of zone coverage now because their pass rush can just get there, and his ability to be versatile, like being able to go to the slot, being able to play a safety position, like this is the perfect dude for what they're doing on the defensive side of the ball. So it was a great pick by them. They're kind of in a situation where it's just like, hey, just every single pick we make, we're going no team need, BPA. Like, I understand O-line has been the problem while Collins is coming over, which is going to help. Jonah Williams' development is getting better. And then they also have they signed the dude from Tampa Bay guy. Was it Karras? No. Tampa Bay guy early in the offseason. Was it Marpet? Or did he retire?
Marpet retired. It was the other cat, the other guard they had.
Yeah, I can't think of the just name off the top of my head. So, but anyways, they addressed O-line, so they don't need to do it in the first round because all the good interior guys were gone at that point. So Daxton Hill is just a perfect fit for what they're doing.
So I'm looking at one of my fantasy rosters right here, and I've got Von Bell. What do I do with this guy? I got him on a decent contract. Do we think that this is Dunzo for Vaughn? Is he going to get moved, or are they going to rotate?
No, they'll probably be on the field at the same time.
Yeah,
I bet you Daxton ends up in a kind of a slot corners, third safety kind of a role.
Yeah,
I don't know that they impact each other that much. Von Bell's still going to have a lot more tackle upside. He'll be in the box, and Daxton will be kind of split out, and he'll be in more coverage responsibility.
They drafted him as a corner too, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
when they announced it was corner.
So probably his nickel corner, slot corner sort of thing there. That makes sense. So the last guy here, the first round, Lewis Cine. I know. He's Lewis. So this is a guy. We had a good talk on the Discord for all of our writers over at Gridiron Ratings last night about this guy. I cannot believe that nobody traded up to grab a quarterback and get that fifth-year option, considering how developmental they are. But I was sure that somebody was going to hop in at 32 and grab like a Malik Willis. But I guess those guys really are as bad as I thought they were. Moving back to Lewis, though. Daxton Hill's great. Kyle Hamilton's better. Lewis Cine, we had him as the DB2, so right in between. How do you like his fit? Everything they're doing with the Vikings, Harrison Smith, all of that.
Well, for shout out to one of my friends who's a Vikings fan, he's still really upset that they traded back 20 spots for God knows what reason, because they wanted corner. I feel like they just all went, and it's real tough. So Lewis Cine at 32 was a great fit for what they're going to be able to do. They're moving over to a Vic Fangio style of defense. So like him and Harrison Smith are going to be dependent upon a lot. Those safety positions are, when he has good safeties, everything meshes really well. And with these two, they're going to be able to play together. Lewis has seen ability to close in on running plays is remarkable. Like you see that pop all the time on tape. He's not that great in coverage. He gets his hands he's a little too handsy. He's probably going to get some PI calls here and there. But in terms of just someone does a toss or Aaron Jones out of the backfield, he's getting tackled within 3 or 4 yards. Like that's not going to happen. Those big plays are not going to come from the running game.
Yeah, I'm curious about deployment here. I saw a guy who was able to hit. He can play the pass. I mean, I don't like him in man, but I don't mind him in the zone. If he's sitting back and cover 2, I'm cool with that. I'm good with that. If he's just taking on the deep third, I'm fine with that too. If he's in cover 3 or cover 1, I don't think he's going to be a sideline to sideline type player. You just didn't see enough of that. And Georgia's defense was so swarming, it was hard to get a good beat on it anyway.
Yeah.
But the guy's a hitter. He's going to come up and he can support in the run game. My expectation is that he's going to be playing free safety to get started. Harrison Smith will still be down in the box, so a little bit more tackle opportunity for Harrison Smith. I expect in a couple of years as Smith kind of moves on, maybe Cine moves into that stronger role because that's where he belongs. And I think he's better suited to cover some of the NFL's tight ends and be on that side of the field where he can blow up teams' run game. Chris Back commented the Rams won this draft, and he's not wrong. because they did hoist a Lombardi, and they did it by getting rid of all their picks. So
they picked Matt Stafford, technically.
They technically picked Matt Stafford and Von Miller for a year, and whoever else they picked up and gave all the picks away for.
They traded Muassine for Matt Stafford. So.
Well, hey, speaking of the Rams winning, signed Aaron Donald jersey right here.
Yeah, show it off for a second. So we got a few people commenting here. We're going to keep this in all of these comments, the entries, everything. It's going to run all weekend. So if you're just now tuning in, go back and watch the episode, comment whenever you want. We'll tally up all the comments. We're going to be back on tomorrow at 11:30 and then again on Sunday and covering the entire draft, everything you need for fantasy. Thank you guys all for watching as well. And again, really quick, because I'm having fun playing this little thank you video. Let's just say thank you again to Dynasty FF. I love that subreddit. You guys are the best. Go there, subscribe, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm not going to do the classic YouTube, like hit like and subscribe thing, but you know what to do.
Hit like and subscribe. So, hey, one last note to send everybody out on. Ronnie, you mentioned somebody trading up for one of the quarterbacks, getting the 5th-year option and all that. I want to send everybody out with one thought. If you were going to measure up these quarterbacks against last year's class and the year before and the year before that, where does Malik Willis slot in? Is he better than any of the guys from last year as a prospect? Well,
he's level with Jalen Hurts for me.
He's level with Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts was a 3rd-round pick? Second-round pick?
Yeah. Perfect. And the same thing where elite athletic, not elite, like good enough athleticism that you can design that type of offense. Do you want to do that is the biggest question, because that offense hasn't exactly worked. It's not like even the Cam Newton, who's the complete specimen, didn't win a Super Bowl. Josh Allen hasn't won a Super Bowl, hasn't even gone to one. So it's tough for like even the elites at that style of offense to get there. I like Malik Willis. I think he'll end up in either Tennessee or Atlanta from a lot of the reports that I've seen. And Atlanta would be a strange fit, because it's like, you guys prepared to tank. What are we doing? Why are we taking quarterback this high? But
you should stay in the Bryce Young sweepstakes. You have to look ahead and think that CJ Stroud and Bryce Young are going to be better prospects also. Like, at what point is the 5th-year option even worth anything in the first round? And I think that's what these teams finally decided to put together. It's like, well, hey, Daniel Jones didn't get a 5th-year option. Why did that even matter?
Yeah,
the Giants declined it. And how many other quarterbacks are we looking at in the last several years where they're not even making it to the end of the rookie deal? Mariota and Winston didn't even make it.
Yeah, Atlanta has 4 day 2 picks, which is nice for them, but it's like, you're probably not playing Malik Willis this year.
Yeah.
So like,
they need so many players at every position. Whoa. Yeah, I hope they take punter Matariza.
He's a star.
I just want the Seahawks to take Malik Willis at the 9th or 10th pick in the 2nd round, because as a Russell Wilson stan, I just want to compare the two. I think that would be a really fun exercise for me.
I see Desmond Ridder in a Seahawks helmet. I don't know why. Just throwing it.
I think it'd be a better pick.
No way. Well, we'll get to that one tomorrow. It'll be on tomorrow.
Yeah, we will. And here, real quick, just one more time as we close out. This is the draft guide, right? So there's a link in the YouTube video for this. We're going to update everything on Sunday, it sounds like. But the Gridiron Ratings Rookie Draft Board is what we were using to pull all this information. Jeff put, 100 hours into this thing? It's ridiculous.
More than I care to admit.
Yes. His wife is upset about all of it. And you know what? She'll be happier if you guys all go and get a copy. It's the best $15 you can spend. It'll be updated throughout the offseason, get you prepared in a nice, clean, easy to read format for your rookie drafts.
Yep. It also helped pay for my divorce lawyer.
Oh my God.
She's going to turn me loose with all the time I spent on it.
Well, you can always come live with me, man. We can talk about fantasy football. It'll be a good time. Anyway, thanks, Andrew, Chris, Gary, everyone who commented. Anyone else, as you hop in and view the video, comment. You got until Sunday to leave a note and get entered on that Aaron Donald sweepstakes. Show us again. Show me.
Oh, show you. Sorry.
That's
show
easy.
you.
I'm not showing them anything.
There it is right there. There's a little
autographed Aaron Donald jersey.
It was picked up from Pristine Auction. Comes with certificate of authenticity, which is in the sealed package there. So it's
Amazing.
ready to rock
I'm
and
going to
roll.
put my name in there because I want it.
You're not eligible to win. Neither am I, and neither is Jordan. Sorry, Jordan.
All right. Well, we'll catch everyone tomorrow. Any other final thoughts, guys?
No, I'm good.
Hit us up with any questions on Reddit. You can find me at Mr. Football. I'm on Twitter at Ronnie A. Evans. Jeff is at NFL_DiMatteo. Our Twitter for Gridiron Ratings is Gridiron Rating with no S.
Yeah.
And then Jordan with 4 for 4. Thanks for joining us, man. Jordan's at Jordan Vanek, DFS. Let's do this again, and we'll catch everyone tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.